Ready, aim, fire.
Welcome to Live with Sensei. I'm your host, Jay Haynes, for the Film Sensei YouTube channel. In this 6th episode of Season 2, I am delighted to be hosting Tony with Dafter Things. Tony is an expert in stop-motion animation, and he is one of the most requested guests I have ever had on my show. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Jay. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, it is a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, I enjoyed the last one so much, I thought I'd come back.
Awesome. Well, like I said, you are one of the most requested people that I've had asked to come on the show and talk about what you do, which is stop motion animation. I do want to give a few shout outs, so please leave a comment in the chat room if you're there so that I can recognize who is in the house today. Also, if you have a question for Tony, especially about stop motion animation, ask away. Now is your chance. But before we begin, I do want to remind everyone that I have a new Udemy class, the Absolute Beginner's Course on Hit Film Express. There is a link in the description of this video for those of you who are watching this after the fact. Let me go ahead and post a link in the chat room right now for those of you who are watching right now. jhaynes.com is the website that you can get the best deal on. Don't forget also at the end of this broadcast, I will announce what I'm going to be doing next week in next week's show, so stay tuned for that. Let's give a few shout outs, shall we? Starting with, let me see, McMahon Lee Studios. I love that name. McMahon Lee Studios. Dafter Things is in this. He is such a good YouTuber. I agree.
Thank you so much.
Fazio is in the house. Great to see you, sir. Terry with 4K Productions, typical Saturday, baking digitally and physically and waiting on the stream to start. I'm glad you're here, sir. Numbered board 7 is in the house. Good to have you. I'm finally on a live stream. Yes, you are. And I'm giving you a shout out right there. Let me see. And Greg, Gray Motion is in the house, giving us the old thumbs up. Thanks, Greg, for being here. And Ivan is here. I am here. IVH. Ivan is here. And CC Coder, hey, you finished the Udemy class. Great. I'm so glad to hear that. Awesome. Hopefully you can give me a good review there, and I would appreciate that. Let me see. And this is coincidentally what I was going to, I know. Now I want you to know that Tony has like a little presentation he's going to give on technique and how he does things. But this was a question I was going to ask. So I'm glad numbered board 7 asked him. Why did you get so interested in stop motion?
I think it was because I felt it would be the easiest option to take a story that I like writing. I like story writing, and to turn it into something physical. So basically, my kids had grown up. I'd enjoyed making up stories for them. They didn't want to hear them anymore, or they weren't asking for them. But I still enjoyed creating stories. I looked at live action too difficult. You got to find people, you got to find places. I thought about doing comics, can't draw that well. I thought about doing 2D cartoons, so digital animation, which I really enjoyed. I might go back to that at some point. And then it hit me, why not use stop motion? Use tiny little figures. You've got your cast, they don't talk back to you. I can create my sets. So I looked at everything on YouTube around stop motion tutorials. Found a gentleman called Gold Puffin, and he does Lego animations and some brilliant tutorials. And I knew that if I could take the stop motion side, link it up with the hit film effects side of it, I could do something perhaps a little bit different, join them together, and it would be better for both those things being there. So that's why I chose stop motion. Wow,
very cool. And how long have you been doing it?
A year and a half.
Oh, so not that long.
Yeah. No, not at all. So my first upload was April 2018, and that was my first stop motion I'd ever done.
Wow, no kidding.
I haven't did anything. I went straight into it.
And which one was that one?
It was Avengers Minor Dispute. It was based off of the Civil War thing, and it was Minor Dispute. And at the time, I thought I could green screen everything. And at one point, there wasn't even a sofa for them to sit on. I just had them sit in a sitting position, and I was going to green screen the sofa underneath them. I just thought I can do anything with green screen.
Right.
You can't. So I very much learned that a mix of green screen and practical sets were the way to go.
Right.
And since then, I've got into enjoying the set building side of it as well. Really nice, tiny little models, making things. It's superb. I enjoy it immensely.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Tony's short films include, different series. He has standalone films. He has series of films including Marvel, Spartan the Pooh, and Star Trek, which is my personal favorite. So let me do a few more shout outs here. Let's see. I think that Sean Double J says, "What's up, Dafter Things?"
Yes, another stop motion person who does superb stuff.
Yes, and you work with Hit Film also, I think. Wonderful, fantastic. And we have, I'm going to say, how do you pronounce that? Petita Billen. That's clearly German.
Okay, I'm going to put that more in the French category. Maybe it's Swiss.
From Deutschland.
Yeah.
Deutschland. And here is another question. How about this? Have you ever done claymation?
I've messed around with plasticine. I think plasticine is the same name for little modeling clay.
Mm-hmm.
I've messed about with that in the past. It looks far too fiddly. Not just doing the stop motion, but also making them at the same time just seems a bit too difficult for me. But there is a gentleman called That 70s Kid and His Toys, and he does the same sort of stop motion as I do. He does Lego stop motion. He does fantastic claymation, and he won a tournament for the Golden Morph. I don't know if people know who Morph is. Okay,
I don't.
Morph was a character on a children's TV show in the UK in the 70s.
Okay, that would explain why I just don't know who that is.
But the people who made him and animated him went on to do Aardman Studios.
Okay.
So they went on to do Wallace and Gromit, and they went on to do all of that Oscar-winning side.
Right.
This little plasticine man, really fun, and he won the Golden Morph, which was for claymation, and it was really they're talented. I'm going to say this so often. There are so many talented stop motion people out there. It's just a niche field, and YouTube isn't particularly kind to us.
Well, I love your channel. I look forward to your stop motion short films. I think they're wonderful. They're usually around 2 to 3 minutes long, so they're not like, I have to clear my schedule here. Yeah. You can catch them in between stuff, and you're just like chuckling at it all day long after you see it.
It's nice. But again, that's the curse. A 3-minute video takes me about 2 weeks to make, so I can't have regular uploads.
Right.
And you're not going to get on a recommended list with a 3-minute video because you don't get the watch time.
Right.
So that's a bit of a shame, but we choose what we do, don't we?
Right.
How bad we lie in it.
So Buffalo Brick Films is in the house. Dafter Things and Film Sensei. Good to see you. Let me see. And I think that's all my shout outs. Anyway, let me see. Here's a question. Do you use the Hit Film image sequence import, or do you make a sequence externally?
Okay, I don't use Hit Film image sequences. The animation software I use on my PC creates an AVI file of all the images that I take, and I then bring that AVI file into Hit Film, do the editing, and do all the effects there. I can. Is this a good time to show you what comes out of my animation software?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we'll do this one for now.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I can now.
Okay. So this is exactly how a scene from one of my videos came out of the animation software. So it's a film called The Meat Grinder. There is
Welcome
audio.
to hell, soldier. Now get that weapon online and dirty. That's it.
And that's me screaming which is sometimes embarrassing.
Fire, lads. Keep firing. Damn it. Command. This is 6. Over. Go ahead, 6. Over.
Okay, and then so that's the AVI file that I take into HitFilm.
Right.
I then do the editing, the effects, the compositing, and this is what comes out the other end.
Welcome to hell, soldier. Now get that weapon online and dirty. That's it. Let him have it. Keep up the fire, lads. Keep firing. Damn it. Come on. This is 6. Over. Go ahead, 6. Over. We need reinforcements ASAP.
So I don't know if that shows what HitFilm can do. So how much you do there. I used both a practical set, a physical set, and the green screen. Created the animation output and then took it into HitFilm to do everything else.
Yeah. So that sort of answers Ivan's question. Do you use a HitFilm sequence import, or do you make a sequence external? What do you think about using like cell phone and using this some application from a cell phone? Would that work too?
Absolutely. I believe the phone on my camera, the camera on my phone is better than the webcam that I use anyway. So I've got an iPhone camera, iPhone phone that I don't use as a camera, but the quality is so much better than the one that I do use. So there's nothing wrong with the quality of the phone cameras nowadays. There is a stop motion studio, which you can get, which is a free download, and that allows you to do your image sequences and create your output. And then there's a pro version. I don't know how much it is. It's only about $3 or $4. And that allows you to do all the green screening and rig removal. So all of the things you'd want to do for $3 or $4,
Yeah, and my son actually uses stop motion studio because he does little brick films. He's been inspired by you, and he does them because of the stuff that you did. And my son is 14, by the way. CC Coder asks, what camera equipment do you use?
I just have a C920 webcam. Logitech C920 webcam. I think I got it for about 30 pounds, so about $40 on sale. And I've had it for about 2 years now, and it's done the job.
So do you have to sit down and do it all in one sitting, or can you do it like over a couple of days or something?
What I try and do is I try and finish all of one scene at the same sitting. I know that something's going to happen on my desk overnight, like a cat will walk on it or something will happen. So I always try and break. That does mean that if I'm trying to finish a scene and it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll still be sitting there going, okay, just 30 more minutes.
Just one more. Yeah.
Just one more. It's deadly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I saw a documentary on Ray Harryhausen, and he said he had to do all of each scene in a sitting because when you turned off the lights and then you turned them back on the next day, it was different.
Absolutely.
And so he said you can't do that. You have to keep going until you're done.
Well, one of the major problems people have with stop motion on YouTube, especially the less experienced people, is light flicker. And light flicker is terrible. It could be light coming through a curtain. Natural light is terrible for stop motion because it changes without you noticing it. People sitting in front of their light so that when they move backwards and forwards, they're casting a shadow. People with the overhead light on, really you need it as dark as possible and then just control the light exactly as you can. And then again, you nudge a light and everything's going to look different. So
yeah, and that's what happened to me because I thought, oh man, I'm gonna do this, and then so I did a few practices, and the next thing you know, it's like my hand was close enough that there was a bounce light off of it.
Yes.
And then I realized, well, now wearing a white shirt was not a good idea.
Nope.
And that sort of a thing, and after I went over much of the learning curve, I just said, maybe stop motion is not that for me personally.
Yeah, well, I've got my stop motion shirt, which is a dark blue shirt, for exactly that reason. You think, what is that little light that's flickering, a tiny little light? And it was my white T-shirt on a plastic brick, which was enough to catch it.
Yeah,
so, we live and learn.
Yeah. And CC Coder says, I would guess that you have to have a lot of patience and not immediate gratification is needed.
Yeah, I think I've said before, I don't like doing the animating. You need a lot of patience. A lot can go wrong. If you mess something up, it takes a long time to recover from it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get that finished product and you've made pieces of plastic look as if they're alive, the feeling is fantastic.
Yeah.
The feeling is brilliant, especially if you don't see too many of your own problems, because
Right.
I'm always seeing mistakes that I've made, which other people won't recognize or notice. But I just focus on that mistake that I made, that thing that's out of place, or that one frame that doesn't fit. Don't think anybody else will notice it, but you know, I think you have to have quite a bit of attention to detail if you want to do it.
Right. So CC Coder asks, how many frames per second do you usually use?
I stick to 12 frames per second. I did think about going to 15, but I've got lots of other things I want to improve on first, other than smoother animation. Recently started using music a lot better in my videos. Makes a massive difference. I don't think you have to use a high frame rate. Maybe this is the opportunity to go and look at the other demo that I set up.
Okay.
Because the last time you asked me how to get smoother animation.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the frame rate. And we talked about the principles of animation. So this is Jon Snow, and he's going to be fixing his sword. Hope you can see it okay.
Yes.
12 frames per second. And it's a 1 second animation that I've just looped over and over. So in this animation, the hammer goes up for 6 frames, down for 6 frames, and the pacing is very much even all the way through. So this time, 12 frames per second again, 1 second of animation, but I've used some of the principles of animation. And it may not look a lot different, but what I'm doing is going up for 7 frames, holding at the top for a frame, 3 frames down, and then a bounce at the end.
Right. I see the bounce clearly. Yeah.
So if I've done them side by side. So make me slow down if I'm going through this too quickly. Or
no, that's good.
So I've got them side by side. So again, 1 second, 12 frames per second. There's no difference in the frames per second. I've used what we call ease in, ease out, but the 12 principles of animation call slow in, slow out.
Okay.
I've used a thing called anticipation at the top, where you just wait, just for 1 frame before you bring it down. I've then used a principle which is timing or spacing. I call it spacing. So because the hammer is heavy, he doesn't have to exert any force on it when it's coming down. So it comes down a lot quicker.
Right. It looks like there's weight to the hammer.
That's the idea, yeah. So that's why it goes up in 7 frames, because he's got to exert force, down in 3 because he just lets it drop. And then the last one, I think it's called follow through or something like that, or overlap or something. And that's obviously he can't go through the anvil, so it will bounce. I think when you see ironsmiths or blacksmiths doing this, sometimes they bounce the hammer. And then I thought, seeing as I've done it, I'll put it through the hit film mix. And again, this is 1 second of animation looped a number of times, but with all the bells and whistles that hit film can do with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, this took me an afternoon to get, 20 seconds of animation, but 1 second of animation. To this
1
level.
second that's looped 20 times, right?
Indeed. That's why I'm. Oh, sorry, Jay.
That's okay.
That's why I'm not going to be doing every second of animation like that.
Right.
So there are people that take years to do a 20-minute animation, and they do everything perfectly, or as perfect as it can be. So I've got a lot of respect for those people, but
Wait.
Don't expect it from me.
Buffalo Brick Film just make a comment. Ugh, light flicker.
Yes, yeah, it is horrible.
That's one of those, bane of your existence kinds of things, right?
Well,
All
the one that got me, sorry, Jay, the one that got me is I knew how to avoid light flicker and I was still getting it.
And you were still doing it, yeah.
No, I'd stopped every possible way of getting it. And then I looked in my software and it said, are you in the US or are you in Europe? And apparently our lights are on a different hertz.
Oh, no.
And it was a button that just said, press this tiny little check button if you want to do 50 or 60. And it just disappeared in a day.
I'll be darned.
Yeah,
now that's frustrating.
It is, yeah.
Oh my heavens. All right, so CC Coder says, is there a way to get a similar look or effect in hit film?
Everything I showed you there that wasn't green screen, so everything in this Forge piece, that's all done from hit film, and I think it's all stuff that's in Hit Film Express
right here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did use Hit Film Pro, but I think it's everything that's in Hit Film Express is in there.
Yeah, that looks all like Hit Film Express stuff.
Yeah, so I like doing the cheap and cheerful. That's the bonfire effect.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some masking to put the glow on the sword with an orange plain background with glow on it.
Right.
Some diffuse in there. Obviously the green screen. Yep. I can't remember how I got the glow, but it is using light wrap.
Yes.
But I did something else as well. I can't remember what I did. I did something else to make it look even more glowy.
I thought that looked like a light wrap, but it also looks like there's some practical lighting on the figure itself.
There is, but that wasn't by design.
that was just because the
light was there. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So, is there have you ever thought about doing tutorials on it?
Someone suggested I did. I'm going to switch back now, so we do that. Oh, yeah, there we go. Someone suggested I did. I don't have enough time to do the films I want to do anyway. So I know tutorials. There's an art form, and I know you're very, very good at it.
Oh, thanks.
Doing them on top of all the other things I'd want to do. Somebody said, but you've got to do the effects anyway. Just film yourself doing it. But my brain just doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. It's I've already got, I think, 4 or 5 years worth of videos at my current rate. If I want to do them all, it will take me 4 or 5 years. And I'm putting more ideas on the list than I am taking off. So
right.
That's why I started a channel to tell these stories. I know I probably could get more subscribers, more views if I added additional content and uploaded every week, but I only upload once a month or so.
Yeah.
But I'm doing this for the fun of it.
I think that, you're relative to most YouTubers, you are very consistent. You know what I mean? A lot of people they'll go gangbusters and then they won't do anything for 6 months, and then they'll go gangbusters and then they won't do it, but you're fairly consistent. I mean, I don't know how many you did like last year, but it's probably, 12 or 15.
It is. Yeah. So it's every 3 to 5 weeks I'll do something. I will have a little burst if I can think of a short thing, but real life has to come first.
Yeah. I understand that. Let me tell you.
A couple of hours an evening, I can put myself in the back bedroom and get my little toys out and start animating with them. It's a nice time to do those 2 hours, but you have to have a lot of 2 hours to do a 5-minute video.
Yeah. Farrah Films is in the house. Good to have you.
Hello.
is also in the house. Good to have you too, sir. Great. Glad you're here. Daniel asks, Daniel's in the house too. Have you ever thought about making a tutorial on chopping a hand off with a lightsaber?
the figures is this for you or for me? That question.
No, I don't know. Maybe either one of us. Probably for me.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually, I'm working. My next Udemy course is going to be the lightsaber course. I'm going to do everything on lightsaber in hit film. So that's on the list. So I'm not sure if I'm ever going to make a YouTube tutorial on it, but if it's something that you're interested in, I'd be delighted to consider it. It's basically like a burn effect because it's a cauterized wound. So it's a burn effect combined with a lightsaber cut. and I've done a tutorial on the burn effect, and I've done obviously a lot of lightsabers. So it would just be a combination of those two. And a lot of my tutorials are becoming more and more, you know, I'm going to use the technique from this tutorial, combining it with that tutorial to create this. And, you know, there's my new tutorial, right? But it really wasn't a new one because it's all the techniques I've done before. I'm just using them together, kind of a thing. So at any rate, that's
talking of your tutorials. You did the aging tutorial.
I did. Yeah.
And I said that I was going to use it. I've got an idea for it, and it seems to work perfectly.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, wow.
It's freaky. The result I got using these little plastic figures,
right?
Putting it through exactly your tutorial, the result is freaky.
No kidding.
Oh, you know, I didn't think it would work. I didn't think it would recognize them as faces, but it does.
Wow. And Ivan is also from Denmark, so there we got a couple of guys from. We got people from all over the world. That's wonderful. Yeah. Fantastic. If anybody has any more questions, now's the time to ask. I think that if you don't do tutorials, where would you recommend if somebody was interested in doing stop motion animation to go learn about it?
Stop motion. I got mine from Gold Puffin. I think it used to be Gold Puffin Lego Animations. He may just be Gold Puffin Animations now.
Yeah.
And he's done a playlist of 10 things stop motion noobs do and 10 things stop motion pros do. And I think he's done about 3 of each, and he's going to be doing another one. And they are fantastic, especially if you're using Lego. So I don't use Lego, but of course the stop motion things all apply. So I would go there. You know, he explains things really well, gets the basics out the way quickly, and you would be up and running with a decent video very shortly.
Right, Gold Puffin. Okay, sounds good. That's where my son went.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So numbered board 7, I think is probably a question for me. Will there be an intermediate Udemy class? I don't see myself as a beginner, but I don't see myself as an expert either. And actually my course is called the Absolute Beginners course on hit film because it can be applied to beginners, but it's not only for beginners, it's for everybody. In fact, several of the people who are in there are like Stargazer 54, for example, came to me and said, "Oh my gosh, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm one of the moderators on the show, and I learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know about." You know, what's funny is that I literally, to build the course, I actually read the entire user manual from cover to cover, and the person who wrote that is Axel Wilkinson. And I kept on a daily basis, I would start emailing him, and I'd say, "Hey, you know, I think that this is not correct." And he would go, "Really? You know, oh, you know, it isn't. I didn't realize they changed that or they fixed that, you know, kind of a thing." And then the next day I would email him again, you know, and finally he goes, "Have you been reading the whole manual?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read it from cover to cover." He's like, "You have got to be the only human being on the planet that's ever done that," you know? So mine was like my course is a full build based on a teardown of the whole manual, basically. And so, that's why I say it's an absolute course, but it's not just for beginners; it's for everybody.
I was just about to say, Jay, I wouldn't. If people are looking at it, don't let the beginner put you off. I found so much. I got so much from it as well, and I've been using variations of hit film for 6 years, 5 years, and I still got a lot from it.
Yeah, you're one of the few people that have gone completely through my course. So.
and again, I was struggling a little bit with things slowing down too much. I think I mentioned this on the last stream, and you gave me 3 tips,
right,
which helped me get better performance, and that just changes your whole workflow. If you get a decent performance, your whole approach changes. I can do things now that I didn't do in the past.
Right, I
used to go and make a cup of tea when I wanted to render something, and you know, I can sit there now and wait. It's really useful for me.
Yeah, that is really a big, and that's one of the big knocks on hit film is that it lags, it's slow, you know, it struggles, and in certain respects it does. But on the other hand, there are things that you can do to speed that workflow up, and if you know what they are, it's like a lifesaver. And Terry says, "Me too, Dafter Thing."
Yep.
Same thing. So yeah, it might have been you. If it wasn't you, it was somebody who said to me, you know, I was only going to just do the first part of it on the editing, but then, you know, the first video on compositing is only 2 minutes. So I'll watch that. And then, you know, well, that was pretty cool. Maybe I'll watch the next one. It's only 2.5 minutes. And, you know, it's bite-sized. And the next thing you know, you went through the whole thing. You know, you watched all of them.
Again, I can fit 2 minutes into an evening, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into an evening. I couldn't sit there for an hour.
Right. Or 3.5 hours, which is how long the course is.
Absolutely, yes. I think I did it over 3 days.
Yeah.
So wow. An hour an evening. But as you say, I can sit here another 2 minutes and watch this. I can. Oh, well, that was interesting. Let's do the next part of that bit and see where he takes it. Yeah, really well done.
Yeah, well, thank you. When I wrote it or when I built it, I thought, you know what, it's really meant to be digested over a long period of time. You know, you want to do a handful and then go play with that, and then come back and then do a handful and then go play with that and then come back. And you can always go back and watch it again, you know, if you want to. And I've had several people comment to me personally, yeah, it was really nice to have this as a reference. It's like a visual user manual, you know, that I can go back. I know I saw that. Where was it? Oh, here it was, you know, and how do you do that? Oh, that's great. You know, that kind of thing. So at any rate, well, we got off topic on that. That's my Udemy course. Go get my Udemy course, jhanes.com. In the meantime, though, I love George. George is my favorite character of all the characters. And if anybody in the audience has ever followed Dafter Things stuff, you know who George is. And tell me how you came up with George and what, you know, how he got to where he was and stuff.
Okay, so I like him as well. I like him mainly because he's the normal person. He's got his faults and he's got his talents. He's sometimes a bit mixed up. So he's a little bit like me.
Right. And George, by the way, is a Star Trek red shirt.
Yes.
He's a red shirt in Star Trek under Captain Kirk. And I'm sure that's how we got started, right? As a play on the trope, and then he grew into something more.
I've got all the figures for the Star Trek crew. I wanted my character in there as well. I wanted another person's view of Star Trek, which was going to be George's.
Right.
Everything's covered, so he had to be a red shirt. We know that red shirts don't last very long.
Right.
Which isn't very good for a repeating character. So he has. In my mind, he had to be the red shirt that keeps coming back.
That survives.
So first of all, he was going to just be like a bumbling Mr. Bean type character where somebody goes to shoot him, he bends down to tie his shoe and he shoots the person behind him. I thought that's not very endearing as a character.
Right.
So I thought he's got to be really, really good at what he does.
Okay.
If there is a security officer, he has got to be the best security officer there's ever been. So that's why but what does he want? Does he want to be a security officer? No, he wants to be on the bridge with the rest of the officers. And he'll push himself to get there. And once he's there, I want him to be a fish out of water and not really belong. So I knew that for that series, he had to be really good as a security officer, keep coming back, dream of being on the bridge with the captain as the rest of them. And when he gets there, he realizes he doesn't fit.
Right.
And then what does he do now? That's where I am now. What does he do next?
What does he do now? Well, I love him. He's great.
Good, thank you. Yes.
And there was talk about, you know, maybe him being killed off, and everybody on the forums, no, you can't kill George. You know, like petitions were being started. You know,
I think I was quite certain he was going to die.
Right.
I'm still quite certain he's going to leave the Enterprise and make his own way in life. And I don't think I'll be swayed on that. I think he's going to go his own way and meet up with the rest of the crew every now and again for certain reasons.
Right. Now, you were on my show before, so you probably have answered the question.
Yeah.
Right? Star Wars or Star Trek? But can you go ahead and answer it again for us there?
I think I said Firefly last time, but I'm going to say this might be a bit of a shock. I'm going to say Star Wars.
Star Wars. Oh, my goodness. And why do you say Star Wars?
Outside the original Star Trek original series, so the classic series, I'm not that fussed with the rest of the Star Trek world. the original Star Wars trilogy just blew me away. I was at a certain age anyway, just blew me out of the water. And I've not been that fussed since, other than Rogue One, which I really, really liked.
Yeah, Rogue One
the others,
is pretty good.
I'm not even bothering watching some of them now because I don't want to be disappointed again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But that original Star Wars trilogy was the first. What was it? The Last Hope, what's the first one called?
A New Hope. Yeah,
A New Hope.
A New Hope. Yeah,
I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
Yeah,
I even watch it now; it still holds up.
It does. And when I was a kid, I was like 9 years old when it came out in the theater. And I went and saw it. And I mean, it was like, what did I just see? You know, I mean, I'd never seen anything like that before. And it's hard to explain to people today what Star Wars was like when it first came out, because I mean, there were like lines literally, you know, down the block, you know, it wasn't just like not like today, people camping out in the theater or whatever. No, man. I mean, people would just stand in line for days, you know, to see this movie, you know.
So we've got it a little bit later in the US. I think there was about a 6-month gap from it being released in the US and then it coming to the UK.
Okay.
So we knew what we were going to get.
Right.
So those lines were twice as long.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
At that time as well, I think you had to wait 3 or 4 years before it went on the TV. So you couldn't get it on DVD or streaming after 6 months. You had to wait years before it went on there.
Yeah.
So I remember walking back to the car with my father with my eyes shut, trying to use the force, and just kept slipping off the curb and just getting a clip around the back of the head saying, what are you doing, man? Go open your eyes. No, using the force, father. I'm using the force.
I'm using the force. But with the blaster shield down, I can't see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it has been almost 37 minutes since we started this broadcast. It didn't seem like it went that fast. But I really thought those demonstrations were very, very cool. Oh, Lynn is here. Stargazer 54, late to the party. We're just about ready to wrap it up, sir. But I do want to thank you for being here on the show. It is greatly appreciated. That was very, very cool. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. It's always a pleasure.
I do want to mention that next week I will be doing something a little bit different. It will be on the same day, Saturday, January 18th, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Same bat time, same bat channel. What I will be doing is hosting a show that I'm calling Abandoned Projects. Abandoned Projects. Let me explain. I have about 30 video clips that I collected off of my 2 older computers and my new one of abandoned projects that I started, but for whatever reason, I gave up on. Either I looked at it and went, God, that looks terrible. I mean, that's just awful. Or I decided it was too hard and I didn't want to do a tutorial on it because back in the days, only up until about 6 months ago, I had a kind of a personal policy that I wouldn't go over 5 minutes on a tutorial, which really blocked out a lot of tutorials for myself. And so, I would do something and I go, there's no way I'm going to be able to do the tutorial on that in 5 minutes. Or I just got bored with it, or, I just didn't want to finish it. I didn't want to do anything more with it, or somebody else did it. Like I did it. I've done whole tutorials, and then right before I was getting ready to release the tutorial, somebody else did the exact same tutorial. I'm like, really? That kind of a thing. So I'm going to be playing clips of my abandoned projects next week. And then I'll ask, hey, would you like to actually see a tutorial on this? Would you like for me to try to finish this one? That kind of stuff. Now, I can fly solo on this, not a problem. But if anybody would like to join me, if you have a pile of abandoned projects that you might want to share in either pictures or video clip form, I'd be delighted to have you on the show. Just send me an email or get in touch with me on the forums or through the Twitter feed or through the Film Sensei Facebook account, whatever. And I'd be delighted to have you on with me if you like. And if you have, you can't have like a 30-minute clip, because the show's only 30 minutes. But, if you have a little 10-second clips of stuff that you might want to share and say, why you abandoned that project, that would be really cool. Okay. And then 2 weeks from today, I will be having an author come on, a published author who will talk about crafting storylines, crafting stories for short films, or in his case, he writes books, but it's the same thing. So yeah, it's going to be very, very cool. So I think that's it. Again, I would like to thank you, sir, for being on Live with Sensei. It was great times. And I want to remind everybody, did I post your, let me do that real quick. I don't think I did, but I should. Dafter Things is the channel, and I'm going to post the channel right now in the chat room. There it is. And go check out his channel and subscribe to his channel. Watch his videos, especially the Star Trek videos. They're the best. I'm just personally biased to those because I'm a big Star Trek fan, despite what rumor may have it. And check out all of his other videos too. He does some really great stuff. Leave him a comment, share, and like his channel and that kind of thing. Do you have any last minute thing you would like to say, sir, before I wrap it up?
I don't. Thank you. As I say, pleasure as always. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
And same to you. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody next time.